is up, everyone? My name is Fernando. I'm your host of Sports Time HQ. We're back for another episode, and I'm with my great co-host, Keith. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Bit of a bad result though for my Seahawks this week. But what are you gonna do? Gone into the bye 6-4. I think we would have taken that at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Germany, it was definitely a very cool environment. I wish I had the opportunity to go because I would have loved to go. That just being able to sing, and then all of a sudden Brady just snaps the next play, and then that crowd was amazing.
They were all just Brady fans though. Like they were interviewing him before the game, and it was like, I'm a Bengals fan, but I'm a Tom Brady fan. I'm a Chiefs fan, but I'm a Tom Brady fan. I was like, what? And they were wearing Tom Brady Patriot jerseys. I was like, come on, guys, what's going on?
It was definitely a fun experience, but Brady, he's officially won in all three countries.
Yeah.
So he's just being more dominant. My Patriots on a bye week. We mentioned the Eagles every single week. Let's take a look at last week.
The Commanders game, anyways, that's the one I said that would be their first loss.
Trap game?
Yeah, I think that's the one. I mean, everybody fancies them to win. I didn't think they were that good against the Texans. They got the win. They did what they needed to do, but for a lot of that game, the Texans were in it. So I think the Commanders will upset them and they'll get their first loss.
There you go. Wow. I said it.
Well, you did say it. You called it last week that the Washington Commanders would beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was true. It came to be true. And I hope you placed a bet.
I mean, I did place a bet and it won. It wasn't on the Commanders. I bet the over on the game, and I got that. But I mean, it was just kind of a banana skin game, kind of sticking out for me. Division game, always a tough one against Washington. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy I called it. If you're a Philly fan, you're not happy, but I thought the game plan. I thought Ron Rivera played he came out with a great offensive plan, slow the whole game down, keep Hurts off the field, and it worked. So yeah, good win for Washington. Gets them, I suppose, a little bit closer in that division.
And I mentioned that Ron Rivera, if the R train of coach firings would stay consistent, and I said maybe Ron Rivera would be next. He's clearly not next.
No. But the question is, how does Josh McDaniels still have a job? I know we've talked about this probably.
It's so bad.
How? I think because I'm sure he'll just get a job with the Patriots. Like, you know what I mean? You probably just get a job.
They need him.
Yeah, exactly. He won't be able to work that long, but like they are bad.
Maybe
just got beaten by like I don't know, a high school coach or something.
Jeff Saturday, which he has now proved that he can win on Sundays.
He can win on Sundays. Well, we'll see how long it lasts because they got Philly next. I'm guessing Philly might be going on a hunt after
revenge tour.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, what's the odds? What's the odds the Colts win? Back-to-back losses for the Eagles?
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that type of thing happened. Do you remember the Vikings a few years ago? They were unbeaten, and then all of a sudden they were, I think they were like 6 unbeaten, and then all of a sudden they were 6-6. They went on a losing streak. So, these things happen. I think Philly are too good for that, but it might be tighter than a lot of people think.
Yeah, and speaking of the Vikings, I hope you watched that game, at least the ending of that game.
I did.
Vikings-Bills, what an amazing game. That was the game of the year.
Oh, I mean, game of the century, maybe the best game I've ever seen. That Justin Jefferson catch was just crazy.
The catch of the year. Catch of his life.
Yeah. I mean, like if there's awards for that or whatever, he's won it. Nobody else is going to beat that. But then the whole fumbling the ball on the goal line and defensive touchdown, and then Josh Allen going down, you're thinking, all right, just kick it over. But yeah, man, it was a crazy game. I think the right team deserved to win, though. I think the Vikings deserved to win. Singletary was doing so well in the first half, running the ball, and then all of a sudden in the second half, they just didn't give him the ball at all. I was like, you have to have some balance, and Josh Allen can't save you every time. So I think that's what their issue was.
Do you think they should have taken a safety there?
Yeah, better off. I mean, they still would have been ahead. I mean,
only by 2.
Yeah, but
that was the question.
I think they would. They would have been better taking a safety there. Yeah.
And now here's my thought process on the offseason, this offseason. They're going to most likely try and talk about coaches' challenges. Should challenges be taken at any point of the game without that 2-minute warning where if you're under 2 minutes, you can't challenge it? Because Gabe Davis dropped that catch.
Oh, they got 2 calls on that catch or on that drive. There was another one I can't think of off the top of my head, but the Gabe Davis one clearly dropped it. Yeah, I think so. Because New York sometimes are very slow to call it back.
Mhm.
And once the first play is gone after that, then you can call it back. Then so I think there should be coach's challenge. Somebody upstairs going, yeah, coach, throw a flag. I mean, I don't know why. You might know, but I don't know why the reason is inside 2 minutes they can't. I'm guessing that something goes back a while, but during the other parts of the game, the coach throws the challenge flag and that's it. It's challenged. But inside 2 minutes, yes, the refs call, but they're not quick enough half the time, and that's the issue there.
No, and the big thing is like Gene Steratore, the rules analyst for that game, he mentioned that it should have been reviewed. And in overtime, all reviews are taken up in New York. So I think maybe in the 2 minutes that coaches have only one challenge remaining or one challenge at all, but that challenge is reviewed by New York.
Yeah.
And not by the officials on the field.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Or like, I don't know whether you want to go down the road saying inside of 2 minutes, the teams get an extra challenge. So if you've used your challenge during the game, you get a one for inside 2 minutes, and you can just use it whatever you want.
Yeah,
because it only goes to review them when you challenge, something like that. But yeah, I mean, okay, like I said, I think the right outcome came. The Vikings winning, but they missed 2 big calls, and one of them was that Gabe Davis clearly didn't catch that ball.
And if the Bills won that game, that would have been the hugest talk of the past couple of days.
Oh, that's what we'd be talking about now. We probably wouldn't be talking. We'd mention Jefferson's catch, but we'd be talking about that. The Bills won only because of a call that was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. We've mentioned Brady already, but the Bucs, they get back-to-back wins. That's good for them, and they now have a 1-game lead in the division.
Yeah, a bit of momentum, but it kind of gets stopped again with their bye week. So we'll see how they come back after the bye. They looked a lot better. Seahawks was the type of performance I was expecting this year. A bit all over the place. Geno wasn't good. The whole offense wasn't good in the first half. Then we got it going in the second half, and then Geno had that. Yeah, it was too little, too late. But he had that bad fumble. If he doesn't fumble that ball early in the second, I think we may have chased him down because we looked good. Like you said, too little, too late. We looked good late on. But the clock ran out on us. But good for Tom Brady. I mean, good for that Bucs offense. Godwin was getting peppered. Rashad White stepped up with Fournette out. Rashad White looked good. He put Quandre Diggs on his ass. Don't know if you've seen that run. He just sent him flying. It was unreal. But yeah, good win for the Bucs. Who knows now? People are saying that they're writing them off, but you should never write Tom Brady off.
No, you can never. And I don't know if you heard, but Giselle is with another man, questionably.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a jiu-jitsu man.
Oh, well, that's probably put the fire up Tom Brady as well.
Yeah, I definitely looked that up later on. I mean, I was reading that. I was shocked. I guess they went to Costa Rica together, and she brought the kids as well. So
That's
I don't know.
Very interesting. Hey, while we're on that game, did you see they tried to do the Philly special and Tom Brady slipped? Well, that was brilliant.
That was hilarious. Did they attempt that twice in that drive, or was it just that one play?
So they did the same type of play where they gave it to Fournette. But the first time he just ran it, and then the second time, the first time, I think they realized that no one covered Brady because the Oxers left him out there. But the second time, Woolen covered him as much as he could, and then he pulled off back. But then he trips him. He obviously is an intercept. He slips as the interception, and he trips him up as well. It was like double whammy for Tom Brady on that one.
It was great, but I noticed that and I was like, I think they played that same play on the same drive, and Tom Brady was open the first time, but now the defense is ready. They know what they're expecting.
Exactly. Yeah.
They saw, Tom Brady was wide open. Oh, they're probably going to throw it to Tom Brady, which they ended up doing. If anything, I would have said do that play later on in the game again.
Exactly. Yeah.
And reverse the field. The field.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. But I seen his comment saying if he doesn't slip, it's Randy Moss to the house.
Yes.
I mean, Tom, I don't know. You were never that quick. I doubt at 45 you were taking that to the house. Someone probably would have caught you maybe at the 1 yard line.
Imagine he did though. That'd be the funniest thing ever.
Oh, that would be what else has he got to accomplish? That would have been unreal if he did.
That's gonna be interesting. I wonder if they're gonna call anything back with Brady still trying to catch a ball. I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they'll try something. I mean, the way the Bucs offense was before that, they were willing to try anything. So I mean, they were up in the game, playing well, so they probably thought, why not?
Yeah, why not? Two big injuries. Zach Ertz, of course. Zach Ertz, he has a season-ending knee injury. The question is Trey McBride. I want to say to add him. I really want to say to add him. I just don't know how well he's going to fit in that offense just yet. I think he's a good streamer for this week, but I don't know if I'm ready to say he's going to be that next Zach Ertz.
Yeah, it's a shame. Zach was having a good season.
It was.
And it looked like initially that it was like, oh yeah, he had a knee injury, but it wasn't going to be season ending. So I do believe he's gone for a second opinion. But it looks like, yeah, he's out for the season, which is a shame. So it'd make me think that it's an ACL injury.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. If not, it has to be a pretty severe injury to miss like the last, 8 weeks?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a shame for them, and it's not good for the Cards because, okay, they got a win, but they've been shaky all year, to say the least.
And it's not good for fantasy owners, too, because Zach Ertz was a good tight end to start every week, and now you got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, he was solid. A lot of people thought, he wouldn't get the targets when Hopkins came back, but he was still doing pretty good. So yeah, like you said, a lot of people going back to the drawing boards, taking a look at the waivers. Maybe they'll take a couple of our guys today.
Yeah, and another bad injury was Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, he suffered a very bad injury, and Sean McVay mentioned that it didn't look good. But we finally got news just before the show. Cooper Kupp, sadly, has been placed on the IR, and he's going to be missing a few weeks now, but it's a high ankle sprain. So I'm guessing, maybe by the end of the season, he should be back?
The interesting thing with this, I was reading that, yeah, it's a high ankle sprain, and he's going to be gone, at least 4 weeks, but they're saying he's going to need surgery tomorrow. So, people get high ankle sprains and
don't get surgery,
run, but they don't get surgery. Yeah. So this is the interesting thing. So you may not see him back for the season if it's something more significant that you're just not telling us.
Which is a big blow because that's Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase now out for a while.
Yeah. Two of the big wide receivers. I mean, Chase is probably halfway or maybe nearer to coming back. I haven't heard of any updates, but
I haven't heard anything else.
Kupp definitely gone for 4 weeks, and I'm thinking of maybe longer with whatever the surgery is that's planned for tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, hopefully no one drafted those two back to back in like the first and second round, if anything.
I mean, you probably would have been happy up to a certain point.
Yeah.
But now it's
you're really sad.
Yeah. I mean, your playoff run's probably gone now.
Yeah, I mean, unless you have Justin Jefferson too, then maybe you have some hope. But the odds of you having all three of those,
very slim. You want to do some good trading there.
Another one to add, though, I do want to mention with the Cooper Kupp on IR now, Van Jefferson. You got to go pick him up.
Yeah,
and does Odell go there?
Oh, there's a big one there. There's a good question about Odell. I wasn't thinking of that. Yeah, he might now, especially like I was just saying, if they think Kupp's going to be worse than 4 weeks, Odell, knows the offense, knows McVay.
Yeah,
he could fit in there nicely. That's very interesting. Yeah, it's a good call.
Van Jefferson, I think, is going to get some good targets, but now Stafford or whoever's quarterback there is going to have a problem because Kupp was the only guy they were throwing.
True, exactly. I was about to say they need Stafford back, but like Stafford hasn't been good all season. And like you said, he only throws the Kupp, so he's going to need to throw it around now, a bit of variety and spice it up a bit and see what happens. They need to get the run game going too, though. I mean, that was kind of their foundation on offense, the run game and Kupp. They have no run game really, and they have no Kupp, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it will be, especially Stafford still having that shoulder injury. It's been all around. But that's going to do it for our news, notes, and injuries. Time to go to our bust of the week. And Keith, I want to mention Mr. Sanders. And Miles Sanders, second lowest in rushing attempts, yards, and he tied for the lowest in fantasy points with 5.4 points. We've seen him have double digits in 3 straight weeks, this last 3 weeks, and he didn't get there this week. And of course, a lot of fantasy owners, especially being on an Eagles team that's 8-0 at one point, I mean, you expected him to be a plug and play and get you maybe a solid 15, maybe 20 points. Who knows? Especially against the Commanders.
I know. I mean, the Philly are all based on kind of like that balance offense, whether it's Hurts running and then obviously throwing, or it's Sanders, taking the carries and then Hurts throwing. But there was no balance to their game last night. Hurts was trying to do it all. He did, and to be fair, he did pretty good in what he did. I mean, even the interception was a really good throw. It was just kind of unlucky. It was in double coverage as well, but he threw a really good ball. Yeah, but they didn't balance it enough. It was all Hurts trying to do it himself. Not enough of the ball went to Sanders. And the only thing, the kind of crazy thing, when they gave the ball to Sanders, he got good yardage. He looked good, like he has all season. But they just didn't do it enough. And then you had, Washington mixing in their slow offense, which didn't allow Jalen Hurts or Sanders to get back on the field. So, yeah, I mean, bad week for Philly, bad week for Sanders.
And I think Sanders will bounce back. I don't see him really being that guy that's going to start digging you in a hole for the rest of the season.
No, I mean, for where most people drafted him at the start of the season, he's a bargain of what you're getting.
Oh, easily.
So I wouldn't be too downhearted after one bad week.
Yeah, exactly. Who's your bust of the week?
I mean, so my bust is David Montgomery, and people are probably saying since the Chicago team is on fire for fantasy this week. With Fields, Kmet, Mooney's doing all right, Herbert's doing great.
Mm-hmm.
But Montgomery's only had 9 carries for 37 yards, and he had 1 reception for 7 yards.
Yep.
Put up just was a 5.4 fantasy points. He did that last week as well. He hasn't had a decent fantasy week since week 5, where he got 18 points. I mean, he is really feeling the pain of when Justin Fields is getting them big 50-yard runs or whatever, that crazy 60, 70-yard he had last time. That should be Montgomery. That shouldn't be Fields. I know fancy managers are feeling that. So, I mean, he's a big bust. He's been a big bust, I think, for a lot of the season, and he's barely effective. Borderline a flex play right now. Borderline for me. If you have, someone better to go in there and you've got 2 better running backs, you don't start Montgomery for me.
Yeah, you know what? First team in NFL history to have 5 straight games of 235 plus rushing yards. And the funny thing is David Montgomery is non-existent.
That's it, non-existent. And he's not like he's a bad player. He's very good, but he's just not being used. He's really getting hurt by Justin Fields now, running the ball a lot more. But then again, Khalil Herbert, when he gets his opportunities, has looked very good. So I don't know, could there be a change to the guard there? Is Herbert going to be the guy?
Yeah.
Monty be the backup? But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because they can score. They've proven that, and there's a lot of players out there scoring really high for fantasy, but Monty is just not one of them.
Yeah, and I mentioned three weeks ago when I first started mentioning Justin Fields that they're finally using the offense correctly, and Chase Claypool getting there, and I said go add him. He will be a top 12. I hope you guys added him that first time I mentioned it, because he's over 70% owned now.
Yeah, I mean, he brings another kind of dimension to this offense. He's great at catching the ball. He can go along. I mean, he's still learning the playbook and all that, and it's going to take a while in new surroundings and everything, new coaches, and getting on the same page as Justin Fields. But I think he has helped open up this offense, and the coaches finally got it right. They just need to, a bit like Detroit. I know they got beaten by Detroit, but a bit like Detroit, they need to get it right now on defense, because they've proven that they can score, loads of points every week.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what the rest of this team and what the future is for this team, because of course this team looks like they have the future. But again, as an NFL general manager, I mean, one move can alter your whole entire franchise.
Well, that's it. Who's the GM? There's Ryan Pace, Ryan Pauls.
I think something.
I can't remember his name, but they've got a bunch of picks coming up, and it's all on his shoulders basically, and the head coach to get it right, because you have the pieces on offense. I mean, okay, you need to really organize this defense, and this is where championships are won and lost. It's a defense, so he really needs to turn these into a good defensive team, because they have it on offense now. They can score for fun.
Yeah, and the Bears general manager Ryan Pauls, that's who it is. But he also mentioned the Roquan trade. I mean, he was also bummed that they traded him and they didn't extend him. So it's interesting to see, like, the Bears kind of gave up, but they got those picks, and now they're looking for mainly the future, which you had Roquan, which is a really great player.
All I can think of is they have a plan in place come the draft.
Oh yeah.
They're going to hit defensive linemen, linebackers, defensive backs heavy. That would be my guess.
Defense.
Maybe, yeah, all defense. I mean, maybe they need some O-line, but other than that, I think they have the pieces already to score enough points each week. They just don't have enough pieces to keep the ball out of the end zone so far. So yeah, I'm guessing, that defense will be addressed heavily in next year's draft.
Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, our 2 busts of the week. Now it's time to go to our biggest surprises of the week. And what better way to talk about the Packers? Keith, let's start with you.
Christian Watson. I mean,
wait, he can catch? He can catch?
Finally catch the ball. And Aaron Rodgers obviously trusted him. I mean, he had 8 targets, 4 receptions, 107 yards, and a hat trick, 3 touchdowns. Massive fantasy week, over 30 points. I mean, I don't think anybody expected. I'd say if you had Watson in your team, it was more like of a desperation move because you had players on bye weeks. But yeah, he has the trust with Rodgers all of a sudden, and especially against a good team like the Cowboys. And they got a great win too. I suppose Rodgers is happy with that one, getting a win over his old coach, Mike McCarthy. McCarthy was not happy at the end.
No, he was not.
He was slamming everything in sight. The one thing I would say about Watson is just be cautious. Don't expect this every week. This Packers offense is still not very good. And they're still trying to figure things out. And Rodgers hasn't been good. But, you know, he had the one big week and it was a surprise. But I do think he's a talented guy and he just needs to be more consistent. But that also goes with the whole offense and the quarterback play. That all needs to be more consistent.
Yeah, and of course, Dobbs injured on the IR, if I believe, with the high ankle sprain. I mean, Watson has all the shot in the world to be that wide receiver too, and really prove that he can be a very, very trustworthy wide receiver to Rodgers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tanyan's kind of been like hit and miss.
Yeah.
Dobbs is obviously on the IR, like you said. Lazard is the wide receiver 1, but he gets banged up most weeks, and you're kind of wondering, is he playing or not? So, I mean, if Watson can just stay healthy, he's shown now what he can do. So he just needs to be consistent and stay on the field.
Yeah, 100%. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen with that team, if that team can come back.
That's it. I mean, they're against the Titans on Thursday Night Football this week. So
you think they win? You think the Titans win or Packers win?
I think the Packers get a win here, and it's another good opportunity, I think, for Watson to kind of showcase again what he's made of. I mean, that Denver Titans game was terrible. I mean, it was 0-0 for the longest time. And
then 10-0, Broncos were leading.
Yeah, exactly. And then Titans came back. Like, the Titans overall aren't very good. I mean, Derrick Henry didn't have a good game. They just managed to get the win. And usually, you know, you kind of gauge by Derrick Henry what's going on. If he's having a big game, the Titans are doing well. If not, they generally lose. So they got away with it. But I mean, Henry should probably have a good game against the Packers. They haven't been great stopping the run. But I just think it's a good opportunity for the likes of Watson, Lazard, to have another big game against the Titans, who are, you know, they're okay defensively, but they're not brilliant.
Broncos country, let's ride to the grave.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there's the team that needs a new quarterback already.
Yeah. Christian Watson, I do love the pick. I mean, for the surprise, I mean, he definitely surprised. I don't think anyone really started him unless you were in that deep play. And you mentioned how the Packers could beat the Titans, and I think the Titans are really pretenders. I really don't think that they're this huge, really good team. And since we're on the topic of the Titans, I'll mention my Titan surprise of the week. And that's Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. And this man, no one started him. There's no way anyone started him. If you started him, you need to send it to me because he's only 0.07% owned. 0.7% owned. Highest this season was 9.2 fantasy points. So that's all right. I mean, that was only one time. He had season high in targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns. He had an 8.5, 119, 2 touchdown stat line for 28.9 points. I mean, no one, if that 0.7% started, I give them so much credit because they paid off.
Yeah, there's no way they started him. I mean, Westbrook-Ikhine did this last year too, where he popped up for some big games and then he went, you know, disappeared. Yeah, he was on a disappearing act again. And I'm sure this will happen again. I wouldn't be getting too carried away with this. It's definitely a surprise, and it's definitely a good pick. But I wouldn't be rushing to go get him off the waivers and put him in your team because it's very likely that he'll end up with 2 points or something next week. It's kind of the way it is over there with the Titans anyways. You don't run or don't throw the ball a whole lot. All goes through Derrick Henry really. But big surprise. But don't be rushing to go get him because I don't think this will happen again. I mean, I hope he proves me wrong. and then we can all scramble to the waivers, maybe next week or the week after. But I don't see it happening again.
Yeah, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, the reason why he had all those targets and everything was because Derrick Henry was getting stopped. I mean, they had to throw the ball. That was the only other option.
Exactly. Yeah, there was no other way of trying to beat these Broncos. It worked in the end.
Yeah.
But that's not their MO. Their MO is Derrick Henry usually gets us yardage and a touchdown, if not two, and we win the game.
Yeah. Surprises of the week. For myself, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, yourself, Christian Watson. And now it's time to go to our streamers of the week. Just before we get into the waiver wire ads of the week, my streamer of the week is Darren Waller's friend, friend that's probably going to be taking over his job for a while. And that's Foster Moreau. Foster Moreau, of course, he had 13.3 points last week, had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 43 yards, and a touchdown. I am nervous on that stat line because of the fact that he really got the points because of that touchdown. But I think if you need a tight end, especially if you lose Zach Ertz, I don't know if Trey McBride's that guy you really want to trust right away to plug and play. And I think with Waller out, Moreau is going to get more of the opportunity. We know Derek Carr likes to throw to tight ends. I think a tight end here could be a sneaky one, especially because they go on to face Denver next week. And Denver's just not the greatest on defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sneaky pick. We've seen, like you said, Derek Carr does like throwing the ball to the tight end position. Waller's had some great weeks. He's a great tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been weeks where Moreau has, even with Waller around, has got on in the end zone. I think you will be relying on him getting a touchdown. Like you said, you're kind of worried about the stat line, but I think that's what you'll be banking on. He'll get some targets, but I don't think he'll be peppered with targets. It's going to be Devontae Adams, claiming all them. But I think he is a sneaky pick, and he is a guy that I think Derek Carr does and will look for in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see. I mean, I know if I need a tight end, because I know Zach Ertz has been in a lot of my leagues, I might be looking at Foster.
Yeah, no? I mean, we always say it every week. The tight end position is so tough to gauge. So deep leagues especially must be bone dry. So he could be a guy out there to get you some sneaky fancy points this week.
Yeah, 100%. Keith, who is your streamer of the week?
So probably all noticed by now, I like to stream the quarterback position when we do this, segment in the show. So I've gone for Taylor Heineke, thinking that, teams that have Tom Brady or Geno Smith might need a quarterback this week. Okay, don't get me wrong, he didn't do great last night, but that was the game plan. He got like 5 points last night. That was all game plan. Slow it down. Don't let Philly back on the field. Don't let Jalen Hurts back on the field so he can hurt us. It was a high run game. They play Houston this week. That game plan goes out the window. He'll be throwing the ball a lot more. I'm expecting a big day from Heineke, a big day from Terry McLaurin. Bit of Curtis Samuel thrown in there, Dotson. I think it's all going to be thrown around because this Houston team are not very good. This Houston defense are very bad. So Heineke, I think, is a good streamer this week. And I think he put up 15, 16, 17, 18 points at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see with what Heineke can do. I mean, I'm not a fan of starting him right away, but it's a good stream, especially with the matchup. I don't mind it. Foster Moreau, Taylor Heineke are 2 streamers of the week, but we do have some breaking news.
Oh, fill me in.
We were on the Packers, talking about the Packers earlier. Well, they need wide receivers, and they ended up releasing wide receiver Amari Rodgers and, of course, running back Kylan Hill.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting. And the other big one yesterday was Benjamin, Benjamin from.
Yeah, that was a big surprise.
He was starting recently as well, but Amari Rodgers and who'd say Kylan Hill.
Yeah, he's the third string.
I liked what I seen with Hill coming out. I mean, he was always on special teams and he was a returner, and then he was hurt for most of this year. But yeah, so I suppose not a surprise. But Amari Rodgers, he was fine, nothing major. But like you said, the wide receiver position is fairly thin there in Green Bay. So yeah, it just got even more lean.
Yeah. Well, it is time to go to our waiver wire quarterbacks. And of course, I cannot talk about Mr. Justin Fields. His dreams have passed. But Keith, we'll start with your guy, because I'm intrigued on your guy.
So my guy's Deshaun Watson. We all know the saga going on with Deshaun Watson. banned for so many games and all the stuff off the field. But he's allowed to fully practice this week. He is going to be back in week 13 to face his old team, the Texans. And I think this is your window to go get him, because otherwise everybody's going to be going to get him next week when, it's only 1 week away. If you are making a playoff run, or if you're a contender and you have that spot on the bench, he is a cert to start on your team or to be there if you go pick him up. I mean, we've seen what Deshaun Watson can do. He's a top 5 quarterback every year, when he starts week 1 and actually plays and doesn't get himself in trouble. So if you've got the room on your squad, he is a great stash, because he could be a league winner at this stage.
Yeah, no, he definitely can. I mean, we saw that in the running back Rashad Penny last year, and Deshaun Watson, like you mentioned, top 5 quarterback when he's playing. My question is, like, I'm willing to go get him, but am I willing to start him the first week against the Texans?
Yeah, I think I would, though, because the Texans are that bad.
It
also depends who your other quarterback is and who you've been starting all year.
But say you had, like, I don't know, Carson. No, not Carson. He's Matt Ryan. So you had Matt Ryan.
Oh, if you've got Matt Ryan, I'm playing Deshaun Watson. My issue is if you've got one of the, Lamar Jackson, the Justin Fields, and then you obviously take Deshaun Watson to make sure no one else is getting him. Okay, it's a good, choice to have. But you then have that headache of who do you start.
Now, do you think? Now, what if Watson comes back and looks like a Russell Wilson on the Broncos?
I really don't think he will.
I don't think he will either. But 2 years? You haven't really played for 2 years.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, he's going to be rusty. There's going to be like a feeling out process.
This is lost season.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna, need to kind of bet in there. But I still think he's good enough to go beat his old team on the first day. And I'll mean an uptick for Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper and and Njoku if he's out there. If it's not Harrison Bryant, but I mean I think they'll definitely go a bit more pass heavy. They're usually a run first team with Chubb and Hunt, but it's not exactly working these days. So I think Watson will definitely be chucking the ball a lot more, which is good for fantasy. So. I think I definitely take the chance, depending on who you've got as your starter. But I definitely take the chance of starting him against the Texans because they are bad.
Yeah, and I like Watson. And like you mentioned, the window is closing. Once he starts, he's most likely going to be over 70%. We may talk about him next week, but after next week, I don't know if we're going to talk about him again.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is the best window now to go get him, a couple of weeks out that people might be thinking about him yet.
Yeah, for sure. My guy is before I mention my guy, I'm gonna make a law for the whole entire fantasy community to rinse their eyes and go get Trevor Lawrence. This is the guy that you have to go get. I mean, this man is the quarterback 9, top 10 quarterback, and he's over 20 points last week and over 16 points in 4 of the last 5 games. Top 10 QB. He should be owned in all 10 team and even 12 team formats. And the reason is, why is he only 69.1% owned? Yeah, he's on the cusp. He may go down this week because of the bye, but that's the problem. If he goes down, you need to go get him. He's a QB 9.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people still think of last season and what's going on, but they need to kind of, get that out of your head. Bad coaching, bad year for the Jags, really. I don't disagree. I like the pick. I think the Jags, he's looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable in the system. The Jags have looked a lot better. I think having Travis Etienne back has settled him down as well. Gives him better options, for the checkdowns too. He's also bringing the best out of Christian Kirk. He had a big week this week as well. So yeah, Trevor Lawrence, definitely go get him.
Yeah, in Dynasty, you go get him now. His value's up, but his value's just going to continue to grow because you know what? Next year, not only does he have Christian Kirk, but he's got Calvin Ridley
coming back. Exactly. I mean, he's probably an odd one to gauge for Dynasty. Like, I don't know what people want from him. Like, is 2 first rounds too much
for Lawrence?
Yeah, like I don't know where the gauge would be from. Because we've seen how bad he can be. You can say, like I said, it was the coaching. Mm-hmm. Now we've seen how good he is, and he probably not even reached this peak yet. So I think, like you said, he's a good good guy to go out and get in Dynasty because the price might be all over the place. You might get him a lot cheaper than what he actually should be.
Yeah, and especially wait for a bad week or even this week. He's on a bye week this week. Not many people are going to overlook it.
You may have some desperate people that are short of QB. You might just get him. Who knows?
I don't know. I'm willing to pay a second and a first for him.
That doesn't sound too bad. It sounds about right, I think. I mean, 2 firsts, no, but yeah, second and a first.
I don't like trading 2 first because 1, that's big capital, and 2, I mean, I think 2 first, you have to have that guy that's a solid guy.
I mean, 2 firsts for me is like Justin Jefferson type of stuff. I never pay more than 2 first. I got actually, I think somebody was giving me Justin Jefferson and 1 to 3 firsts, and I was like, no, I never. It doesn't matter who you want to give me. I don't care how good. I never do 3. 2 is my max. But yeah, so like that type of level is 2 firsts.
Yeah, and like when I started 1 and 6, I mean, all hopes could have been lost, but I want to still keep going and try and fight, and I was all in for that year. So I traded 2 firsts and a second for Jonathan Taylor, and that was the year he broke out. So it paid off.
Paid off for you, and I think that's a pretty good deal on the other side too. I mean, it's pretty fair, but I think it's the max you'd do. Yeah,
max. I would not pay anything more. I'd never pay 3 firsts. Nope.
No, not a chance.
Never.
You want to hope you're all in and it sustains for the next 3 years. But the NFL changes so quick. You know, you might win this year and you could be last next year in your league. It's the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm 7th place, and I won it the last 2 years.
That's it. I mean,
insane.
I didn't even make the playoffs in one of the leagues last year, and I think I've only lost 1 game so far, and like nothing much has changed in my team. It's pretty much the same guys as last year. No big trades.
That's in our Twitter league.
Yeah,
you beat me this week.
How did I beat you this week?
That was the week. That was one of my leagues where I was always a playoff contender, and I'm now 2-8 in that league.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
That's it. The NFL changes so fast, so you can't. I think it has to be, for me, anyways. It's a 2-year window. You play for 2 years, and that's it, because everything changes. So roll with it for a couple of years, then go again and see what happens. But don't be making these trades where you're selling pieces that are 3, 4, 5 years down the road, because you're just going to hurt yourself in the future.
Here's the question: if you're in a paid league for 3 years, and you haven't won a championship yet, do you leave that league?
No, it depends how much it's in. Do I leave? No, I don't think I'd leave, but I want to be making sure that I'm at least go all in at some stage. If you're getting kind of that itch where you're not happy and your team's not great, well, then you can go all in, like, what the Rams did to win a Super Bowl and all that.
Yeah.
See what happens. You can do that at fantasy too. I mean, I wouldn't trade away a load of picks, like I said, future down the road, but you could definitely go all in and get rid of your next 2 years worth of picks and get a lot of players that are going to get you to be in, a contender. But I wouldn't leave unless I really didn't like the league or something like that. But it also depends how much it is. If might come down to finances as well. If you're paying 50 or 100 in, then yeah, okay. If you're losing every year, it's not probably worth the cash.
Yeah.
If you're not even contending, so.
I was just curious on your thoughts, but yeah. Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, our 2 waiver wire quarterbacks. It's time to go to our running backs, and the running back waiver wires are very thin this week. I don't know if you noticed, Keith, but it was very thin. Like, I didn't know really who to go for. I decided to go with Brian Robinson, a name that doesn't really intrigue me all that much, but he's the RB65. He's averaging 7.9 points. 50.9% owned. The reason why I decided to pick him, though, is because he's going against Houston next week. 26 attempts, 86 yards, and a touchdown last week. 14.6 points. Not too bad. I think Antonio Gibson had like 14.8 or 14.7. It was around the same thing. I think they'll still keep splitting the carries and keep getting those same type production. But Houston next week is the reason I'm really intrigued on Brian Robinson, and I'm willing to start him because of how bad that defense is.
Yeah, I was looking at Brian Robinson Jr. as well for this week too. And then last night he had a good game. Very balanced offense. Him and Gibson coming in and out, both similar points, both got a touchdown. That's the issue with Robinson, though, is that in recent weeks, Gibson has outperformed him for fantasy. I know they've been level enough this week, which is like, okay. But Gibson has been up there as well, so he may get hit with them weeks. But Brian Robinson's a talented dude, and we haven't seen the best of him. I was only reading about it last night that he's still not fully recovered from shooting, and he's still out there. So I think there's a lot to come from Robinson because he looks very good on the field. He's definitely like you said, thin out there on the running back waiver wire. So he's definitely a guy worth being owned.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how he's not fully recovered. Next season, I mean, he could be that really good top guy.
That's it, exactly. But the whole thing is you never know what Washington. We really we're Gibson fans, and he was never given the opportunity. So you just have to wait and see what happens with Brian Robinson Jr.
Exactly. Brian Robinson, my guy. And Keith, who is your guy? Are we waving the white flag on Leonard Fournette?
I think so. I think we should. And I like that segue. That's probably your best one yet. Best one yet. Write that down. But it's Rachaad White. I mean, he had 22 carries for 105 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, so he just had 10.5 fantasy points. But we've seen a big uptick in his production, primarily because Leonard Fournette did go out with that hip injury. But he looked so good. He looked better than Fournette, in my opinion. Like I talked about earlier in the show, he just threw Quandre Diggs on the ground, just running through defenders left, right, and center, and really gave the Bucs a nice platform, especially when they later in the game where Tom didn't need to throw the ball. It was all Rachaad White. So I'm thinking this guy could be a sneaky fantasy football winner for a team, for many teams. They're saying Leonard Fournette is going to be back after the bye, but I think White has proved now that he's worth getting more carries, more of the ball, and hopefully he'll end up with some touchdowns. But this week's a good week to get him on the bye if you can stash, because I think next week they'll all rush to get him, after the bye week when he's got a game. So this is a good week to go put him on your team.
Yeah, you know what? He's only 24.4% owned. And of course, with the bye week, he could be dropped by a couple people because they overlooked that bye week. But realistically, 22 attempts for triple-digit rushing yards, 10.5 points. That's the only thing he got. It was only the rushing yards. He didn't get no receiving yards. Didn't even get a target. But it was really I liked his style of play. I liked how I wasn't a big fan of him coming into the season, but Sunday, seeing him play in Germany, I mean, he looked really good. And the question is does Leonard Fournette really lose the job?
That's it. The only thing he was missing was the touchdown. I mean, if he got the touchdown, he would have a great fantasy day and everybody be happy. But then again, a lot of people probably didn't start him, so maybe they wouldn't be happy. But
a little bit of both.
Yeah, that's it. I think he's probably like you, where a lot of people were overlooking White this season, but I think he's coming on late in the year now, and he could have a big say in a lot of championship games in fantasy football.
Yeah, and if you're looking to get a running back for even next year, he could be a cheap ad for a dynasty.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, go champs.
Only 10.5 points. It doesn't really look that spectacular.
Go throw out a third round pick. If that doesn't work, just go throw a second round pick. That should be good enough to get him. I'd do it for a second round pick, to be fair, because I think he got some potential there.
Brian Robinson, of course, my fantasy waiver wire running back. And Keith, of course, he's waving the white flag on Leonard Fournette to get Rachaad White. So those are our two waiver wire ads of the week. Time to go to our waiver wire wide receivers. Let's go out wide, and let's go out to Kansas City. And who's your guy?
It's Kadarius Toney. I mean, you offered me a trade recently, and then I went and I actually put in some other bids, and that was the only reason why I rejected it. Now I'm thinking I should have taken that one. Offer that to me again, see what happens.
Which trade was this? Hold on. Which trade was this one?
You offered me Kadarius Toney, I think 2 weeks ago, and I was thinking about it, I think for a second and a third, and
now you regret it.
Not that I regret it, but I had other trades out with the picks you wanted that didn't get answered. Basically, I think the trade's still out there. So now I'm kind of like, if your trade was there, I probably would have accepted it. But however, Kadarius Toney, 5 targets, 4 receptions, touchdown. He had 2 carries as well for 33 yards. So, which means what we were all kind of thinking when he went there, Andy Reid's going to have a great time with Kadarius Toney.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to play him everywhere. He's going to be in the backfield. He's going to be inside. He's going to be outside. It's just that if he can stay healthy, maybe all the things that went on in New York were just keeping him off the field, or where was he really hurt is what I'm trying to say. I mean, he had ankle injuries with the Giants, and then all of a sudden he's in the lineup for the Chiefs. So I'm hoping that he's going to be in this team more often. Now, I do realize that Juju Smith-Schuster went out with a hell of a hit.
Wow.
He got popped, man. It did not look good. The whole hands kind of the head thing happened.
Yeah.
But he got up and they carried him off and stuff. I haven't actually heard an update, but I presume he's okay, but in concussion protocol. So that obviously had an effect on Tony, made him, have a bigger day. But I still think he's a great weapon in this offense, and another sneaky one and a good flex play, I think, going forward, especially if Juju is going to be out this week.
Juju did say that he will be back soon. That was his tweet to his fans. But Kadarius Toney, I mean, he's doing great. It's no longer the phony Tony. It's now the greatness of Mr. Tony. They're in Kansas City, only 47.6% owned. You got to go get him. Get him. Love him. He's in Kansas City. It's a great atmosphere. What better way to have going on from Daniel Jones to Patrick Mahomes? I mean, that's a complete quarterback change there. So I think I love the pick. I love the pick so much.
Yep. And everybody go see if you can get him for a second and a third. Go. Fernando, offer me that again. Let's go.
I don't know. His stock's rising. Maybe I want a first.
No way you get a first.
No, he's definitely not worth a first just yet. But yeah. Maybe I'll send it. I think that's the league. I have a lost cause league. So
send me the offer again.
Oh, I'm sure you'd love him. Let's go with my guy, and I just want more and more of this guy because he's just doing so well. I mean, this guy's so well in Arizona. 13 targets, 9 receptions, 94 yards, 18.4 points. This is 5 of the last 6 games, 8+ targets. Targets. That is the biggest thing that you could ever do on streaming wide receivers and even running backs. I mean, if you get the targets, and it's consistent, that's really well because it shows that there's connection between your quarterback and your wide receiver, and having those 8+ targets really helps. And of course, that's why he scored 3 straight games with over 14.5 points. And I mean, it's been 5 of the last 6 games where he scored double digits. Rondale Moore, 68.5% owned. I talked about him last week, and he only went up 2.7% since last week I talked to him. That's insane. He should be well over 70%. And I'm really happy that he's finally getting the love because next week I'm not talking about him again.
Yeah, he'll be over 70% next week. I think people probably had to just believe in him a bit more and see the consistency. He is a great player. And you know what's great about it too? He just put up big numbers with different quarterbacks. That
exactly.
was a Colt McCoy offense, and it's usually a Kyler Murray offense. So it doesn't really matter who's going to start this week. Rondale Moore should be, starting on your teams. And he is, like, I would say, borderline wide receiver too. Definitely a solid flex play. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
With the numbers he's putting up.
He's a wide receiver too, easily.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are great numbers. Rondale Moore is slow to catch fire since he's came into the NFL, really. Had some big weeks, but had a lot of down weeks. I think a lot of people thought the Hopkins coming back would affect him. It hasn't. The whole quarterback, Murray being out, Colt McCoy, that didn't affect him either. So, yeah, definitely a guy that if he's somehow on your waiver wires, go pick him up.
DeAndre Hopkins, how many points did he score last week? 19.8 points. 19.8 points he scored.
He does what he does. He rarely has
bad weeks.
Bad week, yeah.
Yeah, so Rondale Moore, Kadarius Toney are 2 waiver wire wide receivers. Go get more of Toney shares. Go get some more Rondale Moore shares. It's time to go get those wide receivers. Time to go to our tight ends, though. Our tight ends, it's going to be an interesting tight end week because Zach Ertz is gone. There's been injuries. And, of course, Keith, I want to start with you first. Only the reason because I really like this guy, and you stole him from me, of course.
Sorry, apologies. So my guy is Cole Kmet. He had 7 targets, 4 receptions, 74 yards, and 2 touchdowns last week. Over 23 points was scored, and that's back-to-back weeks. He's had great fancy days. He's playing against, I think, the Falcons.
That's great. Just great.
Just great. Well, it is great because I had him at the start of the season, and I got 2 donuts the first week, and then I got rid of him. So all of a sudden now I'm kind of going, do I need to get Cole Kmet back? But I'm good. But they've had the Falcons this week. It's another good matchup. Once, Fields keeps up his performance, and I think he will. There's nothing stopping him at the moment. I think the connection between Kmet and Fields it's just going to keep building and keep growing and keep growing. And I think we have the next, I wouldn't say the next big thing as a tight end, like not the Travis Kelce, but we got a guy that could be inside the top 5 in maybe next year or year after. I mean, I had him in the top 10 in my rankings preseason, and they shot down pretty quick early on, but now he's rising again. So yeah, Cole Kmet, great. Like I said earlier, a lot of players on this team are going to score high fantasy points because his offense, it's high power now with the way Justin Fields is playing. So Cole Kmet, definitely a guy if he's out there, definitely got to pick him up. I mean, what is he, 58.8% owned? You got to pick him up. There's a guy that if he has another good week, he'd be driving up to 70%.
Yeah, and of course, I mentioned last week that if he scored 25 points, he most likely would have been a top 10 tight end last week. Last week, he was a tight end 21. After this week, he's a tight end 12. And I do want to mention, he's got 81.3 points on the season. The top 10 tight end, which is Pat Freiermuth with tight end 10, he is got 82.3 points. He's only 1 point shy from there.
Yeah, I mean, he's just there. But that's we've always said about tight end landscape. One big week could shoot you right up. He's had 2 back-to-back, and look where he's gone. So I think another even like half the points, he might get somewhere like 12 to 15. Mm-hmm. And, he's going to be right up there, knocking on the door, maybe a top 5.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, easily. I mean, he could be a top 5 tight end to end the season. Could be fantasy winners.
Big time. Yeah, there's another fantasy winner right there because he's coming into form. The Bears offense is coming into form at the right time for people, in fantasy football.
Except for David Montgomery.
Yeah, if you've got David Montgomery, it's just that comment wasn't for him. It's for the rest of the Bears offense.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
My guy to end it is Juwan Johnson. And if you told me I'd be talking about Juwan Johnson in the start of the season or even ever, I might have told you that you were insane because I didn't think I'd be talking about him, nor did I think he would be a tight end 11 right now in the season. He's averaging 8.2 fantasy points. He's just ahead of Cole Kmet, 8.2% owned. That's it, just 8.2, and he's a top 12 tight end. Taking on the Rams next week will be an interesting one, but he's looking like he's becoming that touchdown-dependent guy to whoever's really the quarterback there, and 7 targets last week, 5 receptions, 44 yards. He did get that 1 touchdown. I'm not a big fan of getting those touchdowns because you can't be always dependent on those. But of course, last 4 weeks, he's been in the end zone 3 of those 4 weeks. And he's got 12 points, 12 or more points last 2 weeks. So I think he's not a bad pickup if you're in need of a tight end.
I think if you had said Juwan Johnson week 1, a lot of people would have went, who? Who's that guy?
Who?
Because it would have been Taysom Hill everybody is focused on. And Taysom Hill's done nothing, and all of a sudden Juwan Johnson is the guy. He's definitely Dalton's safety blanket there. Now, whether Dalton gets another go at quarterback this week, who knows? I have a funny feeling they may swap it back to Winston. Just because, Dalton brought this calming kind of effect on the offense, but it's not high powered anymore. There's no spark to it. Winston at least will throw the ball deep. Okay, for every touchdown he scores, it'll at least be 2 interceptions, but it'll be a bit more dynamic. And I still think Juwan Johnson will be heavily involved if it's Winston. Like we were talking about, the tight end landscape is shaky out there, especially with some injuries too. So he is a sneaky guy to come off the waivers this week for your team. And I do think he might be touchdown dependent. That's the only thing.
It's like a Hunter Henry of last year.
Exactly. I like that situation, but that's not to say that he won't get a touchdown. So I think if you are in need, especially in deeper leagues, I think he's a good pick.
And the funny thing is Taysom Hill is still a top 10 tight end at number 6.
Yeah, and he's done nothing for ages. It's crazy.
Last 2 weeks under 2 points.
I mean, if you just have some big weeks and then go sleep for a while, you can still stay in there.
Yeah, honestly, you really can. The only ones that have over triple digits, of course, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz will be a top 10 tight end for a while, I think.
He'll probably stay in there. Yeah. Where's TJ Hawkinson? You got numbers?
He's at number 5. He's at number 5. He's got 113 total points on the season, just under Dallas Goedert, who's number 4.
He's been kind of, going about his work quietly, even with the trade to the Vikings, has been done nicely. And Goedert,
11.5 points.
Yeah.
10 targets.
I know. That's it. I don't know if you've seen the news about Goddard, but he's gone. He hurt his shoulder, so he won't be staying at 4 unless Yeah, he on the play last night. He hurt his shoulder, so I think he's not season ending, but he's going to be banged up and out for a few weeks.
They're planning on having him miss an extended period of time. Whether or not that's him going on the IR is still questionable. They don't know whether they want to put him there, but at least give it or take 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And if he does go on IR, of course, 4 more weeks.
Exactly, at least 4. What I read, they just said it wasn't season ending, so you kind of take out it that way you want. Could be 2, could be 4.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it'd be interesting to see on those. Who's the backup for them?
I have no clue.
I have no clue. Eagles. I would say Zach Ertz, but Zach Ertz is on Arizona.
I mean, it's not someone who's I don't think is fancy relevant unless I've been completely missing them.
Yeah, because of course, what's so ironic? Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, 2 former Eagles. Well, 1 former Eagle and an actual Eagle.
Yeah.
Grant Calcaterra.
Oh, okay. No.
He is the starting tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles.
He'll go off this week, watch, and then we'll have to talk about him next week.
Sixth round pick 198 this year. So he's a rookie, and he's got 1 reception for 40 yards. So he's averaging 40 yards a catch.
Okay. Yep. He's definitely going off this week, and we will be talking about him next week.
Yeah, of course. Jawan Johnson, Cole Kmet, our 2 waiver wire tight ends. And of course, that's it for our tight ends. And of course, our episode this week. Of course, if you haven't done so already, which is still a problem if you haven't done so already, you got to go on Underdog Fantasy and use the code SportsTimeHQ. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So why not? Just go get it, put $100 in. They'll match it, and you get $200. And you can just bet, and who knows? You can bet some good guys, get some good money. Now you're rich. Now you're a millionaire. I don't know. But anyways, still go on Underdog Fantasy. Use code SportsTimeHQ. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. Once again, I was joined by my great co-host, Keith. You can follow him all over social media at SwampDonkey_90. Be sure to follow him and his fiance on Instagram at HuddleUp_NFL. If you need some advice on whether or not the Eagles will win, go to him. He's the one that called the Washington beating the Eagles. But I'm Fernando Geronimo, of course. I'm your host of Sports Time HQ. We'll see you all on Tuesdays at 12:30 p.m. See you guys all next week.